Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's always such a pleasure to see both of you and to be part of the Happy Pear team and family.
Woo! Well, yeah, likewise. We genuinely love spending time. And myself and my daughter are going to come visit you during the summer.
Absolutely. There are rooms waiting.
Great. Well, today we'd love to focus on women's health, and you being a gynaecologist with 35 years experience, you are extremely well qualified to talk about your experiences and what you've learned in women's health, really. So,
and I think a really good, general one is painful periods. It's such a common thing, and it's something that unfortunately affects so many different women. And I wonder, one, what are the causes, and two, what can people do or what can women do to address the painful symptoms?
Absolutely. When I went into obstetrics and gynecology 35 years ago, I knew very quickly, even well before actually, that this was the specialty for me. And the reason I loved it so much was because it had a combination of surgery, medicine, as well as psychology. And that's really something that I found so unique in this particular area. But what I have understood over the years is that there's something missing in our toolbox, and that is lifestyle. Lifestyle advice that healthcare professionals were never taught. I certainly wasn't taught. Most of my colleagues have never been taught. And it's something that is so important, whether you need medication or surgery, whether it's for painful periods, whether it's for menopause. We've just done a course, along with you, the Happy Menopause course, which I would advise everybody to sort of at least have a look, because I think you're going to learn so much. Today is just a little taster, if I should say. But lifestyle is something that we were never taught. And actually, there is no aspect of health and no aspect of women's health that does not benefit from bringing in lifestyle changes. They don't have to be massive changes. They can be little steps, but they can make such a difference to the overall understanding as well as acceptance of certain situations, because you can't prevent everything with lifestyle, because we are handed some genetics that can make a difference. Yes.
And by lifestyle, you mean, so like what we eat, our sleep, our movement, how we deal with stress. This is what you're kind of referring to when you say
Correct.
lifestyle.
The 6 pillars of lifestyle. The 6 pillars of lifestyle, as defined by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and it's common sense. It's really how we eat. It's a domino effect, So the way we eat has an effect on how we sleep. Depending on how we sleep, it's, if we are stressed, that makes our stress worse. And then based on the stress, we tend to reach for the foods that don't really nourish us and reach for the drinks that don't nourish us. And we also then tend to stay away from friends and family and community. So the 6 lifestyle pillars are nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, risky substance use, community. And so it's really important that we address each of these, but you can choose which lifestyle you want to focus on, and automatically then your attention starts thinking. When you've eaten a beautiful big salad, the last thing you feel like going out for a walk. When you come back from a walk, you feel less stressed and you feel calmer. So it's actually understanding that they're all intertwined, and one doesn't really work very well without the other. And you can't just exercise and run a marathon. You can't outrun a poor diet. Similarly, if you just have a fantastic way of eating, but you don't sleep, that's not going to help you as well. So it is really understanding that, and also understanding that women, or those who are assigned female at birth, are not small men. We are different. And so understanding the physiology and the anatomy, all these things are really important, because a lot of us, and not just women, but also men, often will not be able to identify different parts of the reproductive system. And that's a real shame, because if you don't know how your body works, what are hormones and where your uterus is and where the cervix is and things like that, when things go wrong, you can't actually be able to advocate for yourself. You can't, when you go to see a doctor like myself, you may not be able to give enough information in that 5-10 minutes time. And so you may just get dismissed and your problem never gets addressed.
Very good. Wow.
And then on the topic of painful periods, what often are the kind of causes? Some of it obviously is biological, but some of it, I'm guessing, are lifestyle factors. Some of the 6 that you mentioned there.
So periods are common, half the world's population will have them in the reproductive age group, but period pain is not normal. So we must talk about periods, but periods should never be painful. We're not talking about mild menstrual cramps that some women may get. A lot of women may just find that they have a little bit of pain on the first day, and they might, have a hot water bottle or take anti-inflammatory medication, and things are fine, and doesn't stop them from their daily activities. That's fine. Because what happens is every month when the hormones are chemical messengers, and so there are messages sent from the brain down to our ovaries, stimulating one egg every month to sort of race to the front of the line while the others sort of die off. You're already born with a number of eggs, and every time this egg gets released, then a couple of weeks later, if no pregnancy has occurred, so that's roughly about a month, you then end up having a period, which is a shedding of the lining of the uterus. So a normal period is between 24 and 35 days. So if somebody is getting their periods 40 days, 50 days, or every 2 weeks, that's not normal. Just similarly, if you're finding that your pain is affecting your quality of life, if it is affecting your school or your work issues, then certainly that is to be addressed. And often people say that period pains are normal, they get normalized. They're not. And the reason people have painful periods, what happens is the lining sheds a chemical called prostaglandins. Prostaglandins can also cause women to feel nauseous. They may have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, and all these features can be seen during a period. But when these symptoms are enough to stop you from going to school or going to work, or even if you're at work or at school, you're not actually giving your full attention, then that is something that has to be addressed. And there are certain conditions that actually increase the chance of having these painful periods. Those are conditions like endometriosis, where lining of the womb, very similar to that, sticks itself outside on your ovaries, on your bowel, sometimes in your lungs. We don't know exactly why. There's a genetic predisposition as well, but that can cause excruciatingly painful periods. And actually, there may be nothing to see on a pelvic ultrasound scan because it, maybe just little dots of this tissue that grows every month, bleeds every month, and can cause excruciating pain. I had a patient who once said, I feel this is a fate as bad as cancer, because she looked completely normal from outside, and nobody would understand why she was having chronic pelvic pain, chronic fatigue, why she was in so much of pain during her periods. They thought she was making it up. And so this is what happens in society, that, painful periods are normalized, but actually periods should not be painful. Mild menstrual cramps, no problem if it's not bothering you, but otherwise endometriosis, fibroids, which are benign growths, smooth muscle growths called myomas, fibroids can cause painful periods as well. Then you can have a history of having had infections. So, you may have heard of chlamydia, gonorrhea, sexually transmitted infections. These can leave you behind with chronic pelvic pain and scar tissue and, a lot of pelvic congestion. And so you can have very painful periods. All these conditions can also affect fertility. So they can all also affect heavy periods. They can make your periods very heavy, passing clots, soaking through. These things are not normal. Doesn't matter if your mother had it, your grandmother had it. These are not normal. These need attention with the help of a doctor. And if your doctor dismisses you, you need to find another doctor.
So it's almost like
but there are other causes as well.
It really is information. It's your body giving you an information of going, these painful periods is not normal. You should probably consult someone that can help you, fix this.
But also there are lifestyle things that you can do. So that is important to know. There are fantastic medications that you can use, and those could be just during your period, or they could be hormonal medications such as the contraceptive pill, the Mirena coil. All these things can help with calming your periods down, but there is lifestyle as well. So it's not as if only medications have to be used. Lifestyle has to go side by side. But there is no shame if you need to take medications, whether it's surgery, whether it's medical tablets. It is important to know that there is no medication shaming. But lifestyle should not be left on the wayside like most of us tend to, because we are not educated about it. So the things that you would want to do, studies have shown that Women who exercise regularly and doing about 45 minutes of exercise at least 3 times a week has been shown to reduce painful periods. Similarly, when you eat a diet that is rich in plants, and the same thing again when we talk about in our Happy Menopause course, we explain why eating plants, whole plants, not something that is made in a plant, but actually eating whole plants. So we're talking about fruits, vegetables, greens, legumes, beans, soya, whole grains, things like that, millet, quinoa, brown rice, herbs, spices, nuts, seeds, mushrooms, drinking water. These things can actually help to lower the inflammation in your body. And we know that conditions like endometriosis and fibroids, for example, and polycystic ovary syndrome, all these are inflammatory conditions. So when you eat foods that lower your inflammation, what happens is that these conditions tend to have an improvement. People tend to find an improvement in their symptoms. Not always, but actually many of them will find that they need less medication and they can often have, a better quality of life. So plant foods are really important. Exercise is important for painful periods. Then using things like acupressure, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, avoiding alcohol and smoking, all these things can actually increase inflammation in our body. Using a hot water, a microwavable, bag or a hot water bottle, all these things can help to open up the blood vessels and wash all the toxins away, these prostaglandins away, so that you can actually find that that is a relief. And combining all this along with something like a herb. So having turmeric in your diet can reduce inflammation. But ginger, there's been very good, small studies, but very good studies showing that in young women especially, that ginger can help with nausea of pregnancy, nausea in chemotherapy, but also it can help quite significantly with period pain because it behaves like drugs like ibuprofen. So it has the same sort of action. So having even 1/3 of a teaspoon 3 times a day during your periods can actually reduce the period pain quite dramatically if you are diligent about it, taking it in a bit of water. Also adding ginger to your diet, putting that in food, ginger tea, ginger cookies, which are, things that you can actually try so that you can start getting used to the taste and actually can make a big difference. So bringing in herbs and spices, healthy fats into your diet, plant foods can all make a difference. Staying away from alcohol and from smoking and other risky substances can make a difference. And when you're stressed, we know that all our nerve endings are on attention. So actually finding ways to calm yourself down, either with help of gentle yoga or mindfulness or walking in nature, the Japanese way of Shinrin-yoku, which is basically forest bathing. These are simple things and are free of cost. You don't have to go to a gym and pound, the treadmill there. You can actually do these things for free. Find a little local park and walk around and just sit and breathe in and listen to nature. Hopefully the pollution is not too bad wherever people are listening in.
Very good. That's really, really useful. There's one thing that jumps out when you're saying there, and I'm sure people listening go, oh, you mentioned alcohol a few times, and obviously, you've got a huge amount of experience in women's health, and lots of people, alcohol, certainly women, I've got 2 kids and Steve has 3 kids, and you'll often hear these kind of jokes like, oh, it's mommy's medicine, it helps me relax. And you hear these kind of statements at the stand when I'm waiting for the kids at the schoolyard to collect them. And these are common kind of terms. And I just wondered, alcohol is so often used to relax. People use it in the evening to relax, or they use it to deal with stress, and in so many different ways. And I just wondered, what is the impact of alcohol on women's health from your experience as a gynecologist?
So alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen, which means it's known to cause cancer, and it is implicated in at least 7 cancers. Cigarette smoking or nicotine is implicated in about 14 cancers. But alcohol on its own does not help to relax you. The science is very clear. What it does is initially it may cause a bit of stimulation, and then it actually causes a slump. So we know that stress and sleep are particularly disturbed when you start drinking alcohol. So this idea that I need caffeine to wake me up and alcohol to relax me are actually not necessarily the right way of thinking about stimulants. So you have to understand that alcohol on its own in women's health does not really have a place. In fact, it doesn't have a place. Anybody who tells you that alcohol is a healthy way of living is actually wrong. You need to drink several bottles of red wine to get the resveratrol benefit, and by that time you'll be lying in a ditch. So what is important for your heart health, which people often say? So it's fine if you want to have a drink because it's a celebratory drink, you are with friends. We think that some of the blue zones, where they live very long, and a couple of those areas do drink some alcohol, they tend to drink it in company and laughter and all those things that then tend to negate the effect of alcohol. But we know that alcohol itself, with all the ingredients that it has, the acetaldehyde that it contains, can increase the risk of cancers. It can also increase the risk of having hot flashes. So menopausal hot flashes are actually much worse. They're also what are known as calorie dense, or sort of, they don't bring, they're nutrient poor. They don't have anything in their in the drink itself that's going to bring health to you. So whether it's heavy periods, whether it's painful periods, whether it's endometriosis, there are studies to show, not very strong links, but they basically, because they increase inflammation, it is common sense then in that situation that you want to keep those to a minimum. And if you can actually completely stop it or minimize it as much, even the NHS guidelines of drinking 14 units per week for a woman is actually quite a lot. And even drinking 2 or 3 units of alcohol, and nowadays a single glass may contain 3 units because the glasses have increased so much in size, can increase the breast cancer risk by several fold. So it's just understanding that if you're drinking alcohol, it needs to be a very mindful way of drinking a glass of wine and thinking why you're doing it, rather than this, mummy's medicine or I need to relax, because actually you will find that the next few days can often be not very pleasant once you've had a few drinks. And even a single drink every single day can all add up very quickly and actually make you feel depressed, anxious, have problems with sleep. And as I said, each lifestyle pillar, as soon as you start knocking into it, the next lifestyle, then you will reach for the pizza rather than eating a nice bowl of salad once you've had a glass of wine. So you can see how there's a knock-on effect.
Yeah, it's so true. And okay, well, I'd love to move the conversation now on, because it was only a few years ago, really, from meeting you and having conversations with other people, other women, that we realised menopause, like as two men who are 43, menopause wasn't really, we remember mom going through, but it wasn't a big thing in our life.
We were 4 boys, so we were the most unsupportive of mom going through menopause.
And it's only been over the last 2 years that we've really, really dug into it. And we really kind of, over the last 2 years, we've learned quite a lot about it. Like, we genuinely have. And it catalysed us to create a course with you on menopause, to put in the factors, really, because we realised that it really is an underserved area. And there's so many myths, there's so much misinformation, there's so much confusion, and there can be so much empowerment. Like, there really can. There's so much basic things that people can do, that women can do.
Half the population will go through it at some point during their life.
Absolutely. If you live long enough, half the world's population will go through menopause, and that's what we address in the course with you guys. What I want people to understand is that understanding that there is a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of fear mongering, and also there's a lot of underinformation. So it's not just misinformation. As I said, women often don't know how their body is working, what's happening to their hormones. And also there's a lot of fear mongering amongst the social media communities. And so what happens is people who need to have good advice about lifestyle approaches are scared of eating beans because they've been told that beans are bad for them. But we know that beans and peas and legumes and lentils, soya, these are really, really key to actually having optimal health, but especially in the menopausal age. Now, I'd like to define menopause and perimenopause, unless you think you remember already.
Please, I think this is great.
Yeah. So menopause is the last or the final menstrual period. Okay, so remember that menarche or puberty, menarche is the first period, menarche. It's the first period. Menopause is the last period, the final period. And it's a retrospective diagnosis. That means you have to go 12 months without a period before you're labeled postmenopausal, because you may stop. What happens is that the time leading up to the period, menopause, which is known as perimenopause. So it's the time that surrounds menopause as you're approaching menopause. That tends to be anywhere between 2 to 8 years, an average of 4 years. So the average per woman all over the world tends to stop her periods around the age of 51, with a range between 45 and 55 years. She can expect to stop her periods. Okay? There will be some outliers beyond the age of 55, but most people will stop their periods between 45 and 55. And when they stop their period, they don't know that they're definitely menopausal yet, because they have to wait a whole year to be then told you are now menopausal, or now you're in the post-menopausal phase. You never finish with menopause. You're always going to be, and the current life expectancy in the Western world is around 83 years. In Hong Kong and other places, it's 88 years. In the US, it's a bit lower. But whatever it is, that's 30 years that you're going to spend in this very important phase of life, when you often have less financial worries, and your children have, if you have children, your children have grown up and gone away. You have time for yourself. So actually, if you then just think, oh, I'm getting old and I'm going to die soon, that's the wrong way of looking at it, because dementia is the biggest killer of women now in the Western world, especially in the UK. It's the top killer in the UK. So menopause is your final menstrual period. The average age is 51 when you stop your periods, and the range is between 45 and 55. And the time that is leading up to the menopause is known as perimenopause, and is usually around the age of 47, because it's about 4 years before you stop your periods. And what happens in perimenopause is that you may notice that your periods are getting a little bit more closer together, or they're getting a bit further apart. So you may have a period in January, nothing in Feb, nothing in March. Then you may have periods in May, June, July, then nothing again. And so it stops and starts, and you keep thinking, oh, have I gone through the menopause? No, got to wait 12 months to call yourself menopausal or postmenopausal. But during this perimenopause time, you may have hot flushes, lowered mood changes, lower libido, less desire for sex. You may have night sweats. Your periods may get a bit heavier. Your periods may get a bit lighter. All these symptoms can occur, and they can last anywhere between 2 to 8 years, average of 4 years. So a 51-year-old woman would expect to start going through the change, as they say, around the age of 47. And then you have a group of women, myself included, that are 1 in 10,000 women will stop their periods. 1 in 100 women will stop their periods under the age of 40. And that is known as premature. It used to be known as premature menopause, but it's actually premature ovarian insufficiency. The number of eggs in your ovaries have dropped to a critical level, and that's when menopause occurs. But when it occurs under the age of 40, it needs specialist input, gynaecologist, somebody with a special interest like myself to look after those women. They need tests and things like that. They need hormone replacement unless there's a real contraindication. So that is really important. Under the age of 40, some women may not even have started their fertility journey. So you can imagine. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Quick question. When a woman starts with perimenopause, is that typically when the symptoms occur? And once a lady has gone through 12 months with no period, is that suddenly the symptoms stop, or is it something that can go on?
No.
It's very case specific.
Yes, it can go on. About 10% or 12% of women will still have hot flushes about 10, 15, 20 years down the line.
20 years.
It's important to understand that there are different symptoms at different times. So, for example, vaginal dryness that can cause painful sex is not really seen in the first 6 years of stopping your periods. It's generally seen more common in the second half, 6 years after you stopped your periods, and can get worse over time. Similarly, your sleep can be really disturbed in the perimenopause and in the menopause time. And then over time, it can get better as you adjust things in more, when your hormone levels are not fluctuating as much and they've stabilized to a high level, but they're not fluctuating that much, and your estrogen levels are dropping. So symptoms can last, and then symptoms like hot flushes, mood swings, night sweats, they usually last around 3-4 years after you stop your periods, and also during perimenopause. And most women will stop having these symptoms and will start having other symptoms such as vaginal dryness, urinary problems, needing to go more frequently, cystitis-like symptoms where they feel they need to go every few minutes, and when they go, there's not a lot of urine. The urine infections are not there. So they may have bowel upsets as well. There are about 34 different symptoms of menopause. Tingling in your under your skin, tingling in your ears, all kinds of symptoms. And then later on, you may have increased risks of heart disease, osteoporosis, as well as dementia. So, we discuss all these symptoms and details of it in the course, because I want women to understand that it's not like you stop your periods and that's it, you're done with the menopause. No, because then you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you actually haven't spent time understanding why you're having these symptoms, what can you do, and when should you start. It's never too early to start making lifestyle changes so that you can actually improve how you approach the menopause. And it's never too late. You could be 60 and you can still bring in those changes.
Now, we need to move the conversation into what women can do. How can women feel empowered? Because, there is all these negative side effects, but obviously you found in 35 years experience as a gynecologist that there's loads of lifestyle things, simple, practical things that women can do to help mitigate and minimize or even get rid of these symptoms and side effects altogether. So could you maybe talk about what's effective, what might work, what might not work, and what could, if someone did these, if a woman did these, might she be able to not have these symptoms at all?
Yes. So it's important to understand that educating yourself, first of all, is really important. Okay. And that is it's not your responsibility. It really should be the responsibility of the government, of the schools, of the public health bodies, that we educate people to understand from a very young age, not just about periods, but also about menopause, because then you're prepared for it. So once you understand it, there's no fear mongering about, what are the symptoms, because it sounds really scary, doesn't it? But it doesn't need to be. There's a reason why menopause are the golden years. They are very freeing. You can be very confident. You can actually embrace it, and you can actually live a very, very, very full life. So it's important to understand that there are large parts of the world where a lot of women don't suffer menopausal hot flushes, for example, which is the commonest symptom of menopause. And we think it's to do with a number of things. So looking at your own body weight, trying to aim for a healthy body weight really makes a difference, because we know that those who carry excess weight can actually suffer much more from the symptoms of hot flushes and night sweats and things like that. So once you understand losing weight is not easy, we know that weight gain can creep up, especially after the age of 30 or 40. And in the menopause, women may notice that they're gaining weight much more than they ever wanted to. So, but how do you aim to have a healthy body weight? One of the good ways is trying to eat a predominantly plant-based diet. A whole food plant-based diet helps because it is nutrient dense but calorie light. So you can eat good quantities of food like potatoes and salads and soups and brown rice with chickpeas and all the wonderful dishes that we discuss in the Happy Menopause course. What people have to understand is that when you eat calorie light but nutrient dense foods, body weight tends to stabilize towards a more healthier range rather than, with the standard Western diet. So that's really important to understand, that eating the right sort of foods is going to make a big difference. Similarly, moving your body is really important, and strength training is so important, because we know that fragility fractures and balance issues can become a real problem as you go along. So understanding the different types of exercises that you can do, including things like your own using your body weight, Pilates, weights, and things like that, can really make a difference. But really focusing on even 15 minutes. If you can't even do an hour a day or 30 minutes a day, which is the recommended, doing even 5-10 minutes or little bursts of exercise, getting up every half an hour and walking around, doing some stretches, these things really make a difference for menopausal symptoms as well. So again, talking about all the lifestyle pillars, finding what stresses you out, what are your triggers. And so finding ways to, because all of us are going to have stress, right? But menopause can make stress much worse. So what you want to do is identify those stress triggers and find ways to mitigate it, because you can't get rid of all the stresses. But what you can do is find ways of actually helping yourself. Like I said, going for a walk with a friend, laughing at, loudly, watching a comedy show, being happy like you guys. These things actually, community work, these things can really make a difference. So I hope I've tried to explain to you why it's so important to really start as early as possible. But it doesn't matter. Even if you are not able to start those lifestyle changes early, as soon as you hear about them, you can start bringing in these small changes. And for some women, they will need medications. But not everybody can take hormone therapy. Hormone replacement therapy is safe. We know that there was a lot of misinformation from previous studies, but we know that for the vast majority of women, hormone replacement as we know it, body identical hormones, not something that is custom compounded in a small pharmacy. No, the ones that are standardized and are recommended by experts, body identical hormones. So a gel or a patch or a progesterone tablet, these are things that are important. They are safe. They are one of the best ways of managing hot flushes. But if you are able to bring in, the legumes and the soya and tofu and tempeh, and being a healthy body weight, you may be somebody who's actually in the 10 to 30% that you don't have any hot flushes at all. And even if you do have hot flushes, even if you do take hormone replacement, you may then choose to take it for the shortest possible time and then continue. Because even if you take HRT, lifestyle has to go alongside all the way right into your 90s and 100s, which I hope all the listeners will be aiming for.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point there about lifestyle, saying that lifestyle is just whatever, whether you take HRT or not, it's something, and at whatever age, any woman listening or any human listening, it really is, there's so much empowerment in the choices we make in terms of food, in terms of movement. And I think Steve's got a question, which...
No, just on the topic of HRT, it's something that's so loaded, and as you said, there's a huge amount of misinformation from previous studies, and a lot of those are kind of irrelevant because they were based on a totally different composition of HRT, whereas you talk about the
body identical
one is the most important one if people are going to try it, or if they're open to it and they're considering
it. But you have to remember so a lot of women don't want to take hormone replacement, either because of a family history, they have a personal history of cancer, whatever it may be. They may be having clots, they may just choose not to. It doesn't matter if they can't take hormone replacement therapy. There are other medications that can be used, but also lifestyle can be really, time can be spent to explain to people what they can do. And if they do choose to have hormone replacement, you should not be scared of it. As soon as you start taking it, somebody tells you, oh my God, don't take it because it can cause breast cancer. Those are false information. So it's really important to individualize it. It's not a panacea. It's not going to take away all your symptoms. It's not going to suddenly make you have a romantic relationship with your partner if you've not liked him for many years. So it's really important to understand that while it is really helpful for a lot of people, there are things that one has to do if you want to live a full, healthy, optimal life. We don't know yet whether hormone replacement can help with dementia. We know that starting HRT after the age of 60 probably doesn't protect us from our heart as well. So, every decision for hormone replacement should be with a person who actually understands what a medical professional who actually understands what HRT is and is able to individualize it. And that is what we discuss in the Happy Menopause course, is that what I want people to do is take away the fear of it, but also at the same time understand there are certain questions you should be asking your doctor, but also there are certain questions that you should be asking of yourself as to what you want to do to empower yourself so that you are not always reliant on medications, which sometimes you may not choose to do, or you may react badly to, or you may just find that you're not able to take it. So those are really important questions to be answered, whether you want to take medication or not. again and again, the same thing I have to tell you, whether you're a man listening to this, whether you have children, whether you're a woman listening to whichever gender you choose to identify, you do have to remember there's a lot of things that we can do to help ourselves, to help our own health. And by doing that, you will actually live a much happier and a better life. But medications and surgery is needed for some people, and that's absolutely fine.
It's a very empowering message. Like, it really is, just to remind people the importance of, there is a lot of things that each one of us can do individually.
And just one thing on the topic of HRT, I remember hearing you talk once about how someone, in most cases, someone drinking alcohol increases their risk of breast cancer more than taking HRT. Is that correct?
Yes. So actually carrying excess body weight or drinking alcohol, even 2 or 3 units even 2 units of alcohol, if I remember right, is actually, you're worse off than taking hormone replacement therapy or the combined oral contraceptive pill for a long time. So, it is understanding what your risks are. 1 in 7 of us have a lifetime risk of breast cancer. And so it is important to understand that there are a lot of things we can do to reduce our risks, but at the same time, not blame medications that can actually hugely improve the quality of a lot of women's lives and, is right for them. But again, there should be no medication shaming. But similarly, if you choose not to take hormone therapy, there is no shame in that too, because I know right now there's a lot of push for everybody to take HRT, and it may not sit right with you. So, but don't be afraid of anything, any aspect of it. Like I said, even in lifestyle, there are so many people who will advise you to eat things like red meat and animal-based products. And, these things do not bring health long term. It's fine if you eat them occasionally, if that's what you choose to do. But, eating processed meat, which is another class 1 carcinogen, these are things that don't bring you health. And we know that eating plants over and over and over again, population studies have shown us that they are actually good for you, good for heart health. There's no different diet for reducing the risk of heart disease, reducing the risks of cancers, reducing the risk of dementia, reducing the risk of, painful periods, heavy periods, endometriosis, fibroids, menopausal symptoms. It's all the same. Prostate cancer, it's all the same way of living, the same way of diet and way of eating and way of, enjoying life. It's important to understand that. And community, again, is really important. So surrounding yourself with people who think like you so that you can actually feel motivated rather than dragged down, I think is so, so important, because you guys have built such an amazing community around you. And that's what I hope through all your courses, the Happy Gut course, the Happy Mind course, the Happy Menopause course now. You want to actually bring people in so they can actually exchange ideas and, sort of empower each other, because it's all very well as a doctor for me to keep talking, but when people see the changes themselves, they will then start, it'll trickle down into their community that they live, and they say, wow, did you hear? It's so fantastic when you eat a bowl of dal that is really doing, you so much of good. And so it's not that you don't want to eat the donut or the omelette. It's just that every time you put something in your mouth, you have to think, am I bringing health or am I hurting myself? And so in that situation, yes, keeping those things as treats, but actually choosing a bowl of porridge over or tofu scramble over an omelette, choosing a minestrone vegetable soup with lots of beans in it over a chicken soup. These are simple things, simple changes that one can make that really will bring health and happiness into your own life. And so I hope I've been able to get that message across, and, there's lots more information that we talk about.
You're so inspiring, you really are. And even in the topic of soup, I remember it was in Icaria in Greece, there's the longest living family of women. I think it was 8 sisters that collectively they've lived over 800 years. So they're like, each of them, they've just lived massive long lives, and their lunch every day was a minestrone soup full of 3 different type of beans. There was chickpeas and there was lentils and there was a split pea or some other type of bean in it.
Kale in it too.
And kale, and it was like, and this is what they ate every day for lunch. And collectively they lived something like to 830 years. So I think there is that's more anecdotal rather than scientific, but it's very indicative at the same time.
And it's not only, we know that the average life expectancy is about 83 years. And so if you are going to live those years, you don't want to do what a lot of people are doing, is we don't want to just live longer. We want to live better. And so you don't want to spend the last 20 years in a home not recognizing your loved ones, with dementia, which is the biggest killer right now in the UK, for example. And, I'm sure those numbers are increasing where you are and everywhere else. So it's understanding that it's not just a question of living till 100. These people in the career now are actually having productive, happy lives. So you want to be happy until the day you die. And that, sometimes you can't necessarily choose because genetics does play some role in it. But, genetics should not be your destiny. It has to be you with your lifestyle trying to, prolong it. You're not competing with somebody else. You're competing with yourself. If you were destined to have a life cut short at 50 or 60 or 70 because of heart disease or, cancer and things, can you actually get productive years that would last you longer? Whether you need the help of Western medicine or not, lifestyle has to be in the forefront. Please never, never, ever listen to anybody who tells you that lifestyle is not important. And I know it's still the impression in the medical community that lifestyle doesn't matter so much, or they'll tell you to just go away and have a healthy lifestyle. But what we try and do, what you guys try and do, you live the healthy life. And we, through our courses, are hoping to explain to you what are the different aspects so that people can actually have a guide as to understanding the changes that they can make so they feel good about themselves.
Amazing. There's like, so just in terms to recap, so like menopause, like painful periods, it's not natural. So painful periods, there's if you do suffer, if anyone listening suffers with painful periods, to go talk to a medical professional and understand it more, because it's an inflammatory situation. In terms of menopause, there's lots of things.
And in painful periods, lifestyle can have a huge part to play.
Yeah, lifestyle
really
can have a
to get the
huge
basics,
impact. Huge impact.
part.
In terms of menopause, average age of starting perimenopause is 48. 51 is the average age of menopause when a woman has had 12 months.
51.
51, yeah, without a period. And really there is lots of, like, HRT is an option which suits lots of people, lots of women, and it doesn't suit some women. Lifestyle should be accompanied, no matter what, really. And in terms of lifestyle medicine, eating more plant-based, reducing or cutting out animal-based foods, moving more, prioritizing sleep, dealing with stress, understanding these type of things. And I just wondered, as these lifestyle factors, because as you said, dementia is the biggest killer in the UK and in the Western world now for women. And like, is it a case that these lifestyle factors, which you've talked about, that help reverse painful periods and that help reduce the indicators of menopause, the symptoms of menopause, is it the same kind of, from a lifestyle perspective, that help mitigate someone's risk towards dementia as well?
Absolutely, because what you're trying to do is bring in the color. It's a joyful way of eating. So you're trying to bring in, colorful fruit, colorful vegetables, green leafy vegetables, lots of beans, lots of soy. Unless you're allergic to soy, which is very rare, you want to really be flooding your body with 2 to 4 portions of tofu, tempeh, soy milk, soy yogurt, edamame beans, miso. These are things that you want to have. You want to have lentils. You want to have green peas. You want to have potatoes and sweet potatoes that are baked, not fried. You want to have salt, oil, and sugar as seasonings rather than, large amounts of it. You want to be having, yes, extra virgin olive oil can be helpful, but, in the context, I would rather you ate the healthy fats in avocados and nuts and seeds, bring in the herbs and spices, make water the drink of your choice, eat lots of mushrooms. These are things that are really simple, and they will help not just with dementia, not just with menopause, not just with painful periods, but also with one of the biggest killers, which is heart disease. More women die of heart disease than men, and it's just not spoken about because women tend to die a bit later in their 60s and in their 70s. So it's so important to actually understand that it's not a single, it's not a different diet for different things. It's the same diet, whatever gender you are, whether you're a child, whatever age, whether you're pregnant, whether you're nursing, whatever it might be. These are, strong building blocks that if you bring it in early into your life, you can then tend to have the best out of the life that you are destined to have.
Yeah, that's so important. One of the contributing factors in terms of dementia, would one of them be that the kind of age-old expression that use it or lose it, and as people get older, often society now kind of celebrates youth culture and often doesn't doesn't necessarily kind of celebrate our more wise or more golden years. And I think I love the way you described the golden years. It's something to celebrate. It's a time of financial freedom.
Even the idea of retirement, like, you know, people work is such a way that ties you to society and it forms all your links. And then when you retire, often it's like, well, where do I fit in society now? How do I add value? How do I contribute? And this can often
having your ikigai, having a purpose is really important, and you can choose whatever purpose that might be. That might be helping in the nearby shelter. It might be, you know, looking after your grandchildren. It might be continuing to work like I'm doing. I'm 61, and every decade I think, oh my God, this is the best decade ever. You know, I just want people to embrace life, because, you know, you don't want to, there's no sell-by date. Don't listen to anybody. Age is a number, and, you know, age does not mean ill health. You've got to find ways of improving your health with the help of all these things that we've talked about, but also with any medications that you may need. And for dementia, again, there's a lot of advances coming up, but we know that those who are lonely, those who have heart disease, they tend to have higher or diabetes, type 2 diabetes, they're all at an increased risk of dementia. So, you know, it is so important that these things, you can really make a difference if you are somebody who is heading into that, into my sort of age group. And as you're getting older, is making sure that you have already started thinking about your friends, your community, because we know those are very powerful indicators as to how your mental health and your memory and things are going to be. So we know that. So that information is there. We know that exercising can actually help very much for reducing the risk of dementia as well. And so it's not just diet, as I said, it's not just exercise, it's a combination of all these factors that you want to bring so that it's sort of this perfect choir or perfect orchestra, and you are, you know, the conductor and you're deciding, you know, everything that goes. It's a beautiful way of living. And I want people to sort of get that gist of understanding that that is what I want each and every person who's listening to this, each and every one of my patients, because I just feel that, you know, life is beautiful. We won the lottery by just being born, and being born at a time when, you know, we are very privileged to be able to be educated and listening to this podcast, or, you know, to be computer literate and all these things, because there are a lot of people in this world who don't have, you know, health or any wealth. So actually just practicing a bit of gratitude and, you know, just feeling very grateful for just being, we actually will realize that you don't want to be competing with your friends or anybody else. You know, you are enough, and you just need to find ways of making yourself even more than enough.
That's a beautiful way to wrap this up. Nitu, you are wonderful. You really are. You're a gift.
And that's beautifully said.
Thank you.
Here.
I suppose I get too passionate about something I love. So
no, you're
amazing.
Like, and even to have spent a few days hanging out with you, like you have as much energy as a 20-year-old. Like you really do. Like you are powerful. So you are a testament to lifestyle and healthy living and healthy eating and having purpose and having community, because your energies are up there with ours, and we're nearly 20 years younger than you. So
yeah, thank you. Yes, I don't feel. I do feel age is a number, and so, you know, I don't want. I want to go when I'm still very active and happy, and you know, have a purpose in life. So, and I don't want that to end. So that I'm going to make sure that I keep doing all the things that I hope will keep me, you know, ticking.
Yeah. Well, thanks a million for this. You're wonderful. And thanks for creating the Happy Menopause course with us, because it really has already helped so many people. And hopefully anyone who's listening who's interested in it, the course is 50% off because it's International Women's Day, and it's just €75. So we'd be delighted if you're interested. You can start at any time over the next year and do it. It's 4 weeks, and it gets such important results. I can even read out a paragraph from a lady, Tracy Conway, who went through it. She said, "Kudos to the Happy Pear for addressing addressing one of the least talked about yet most impactful transitions in a woman's life. This course is a wonderful and comprehensive overview of perimenopause and menopause using a team of seasoned experts. They address it all: weight gain, mood swing, HRT, fatigue, low libido, bone health, etc., with the added bonus of how to use a plant-based diet to combat it all. They've included some amazing meal plans specific to easing menopause symptoms, how a few lifestyle changes can make a huge difference in sleep and energy levels, and some very helpful self-care tips. I shied away from eating soy products for years, thinking it was bad for women, until I heard Dr. Nitu Bajekal, senior consultant, a gynaecologist, addressing the misinformation about soy. She clearly explains why eating soy is beneficial and how much should we be eating. Upon completing this course, I've implemented many of the Happy Pear recommendations. I'm moving more, cooking with little to no oil, eating healthier and feeling fantastic. I'm also sleeping better. My fatigue has all but gone away and I'm feeling much more balanced and confident instead of dread-filled. I highly recommend this course for any woman entering her 40s or above 50. It's a wealth of knowledge and will hopefully improve the quality of your transition as it has done for me. And well, there's the twins. They make change fun. I love their mantra of small changes over time create big results. I'm finding this to be 100% true.
Wow, go Tracy. Congratulations.
Yeah, so there we go. But thanks, Mel, for listening to this podcast. I really hope it helped you and I hope you got some takeaways from it. I certainly found it extremely empowering.
I love that idea of the golden years, like where you actually, there a time in life when you celebrate it, when you're like, it's a time of life that you look forward to, as opposed to something like,
Yeah, so that's the wonderful Dr. Nitu Bajekal. If you want to learn more about our Happy Menopause course, there's a link in the show notes. You'll find it in our Instagram, or just go to the Happy Pear website. It's called the Happy Menopause course. It's 4 weeks, and it really is amazing, and we'd be honoured to take you through it. So thanks, Mel, for your attention. We really, really appreciate it, and wishing you a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Nitu.
Steve.
You're
Nitu,
wonderful.
thanks a million. Thanks so much.
Yeah, really, really, thank you.